In this episode of Mighty Car Mods, we are checking out my new Mini Cooper. It is so good to be back behind the wheel of one of these again. I've gone back to my roots. This was my very first car that my mum and dad helped me buy when I was 15 years old. So even before I had my license, I had this car, and it's where I learned how to do basic things like services, putting in a stereo, and I would just drive round and round and round my driveway for a year practicing until I could actually get my license. These cars have been iconic for so long, but they also mean a lot to my family because my mum had one, my grandparents had one, and so these cars have a very special place in our family as well. The story of how the Mini was designed and developed is an incredible one. And back in the 50s, because of the Suez Canal crisis, there was fuel rationing and shortages in Britain. So there became this new host of small cars that were being developed. And most notable of these was the BMW, or what became known as the BMW bubble car. And people in England were buying these. Basically, they wanted to make their own version, so people were buying a car that was made in their own country. So Alec Isagonis, who was a designer who had made all sorts of strange boats and weird things before then, was tasked with designing this car that had to be cheap and also had to carry 4 adults. So how did he do this? How did he fit so many people in the car? Well, the first thing that he did, which was revolutionary at the time, is he changed the engine configuration. So instead of facing this way, it faced east-west this way and was driving the front wheels, which meant you had lots more room inside the cabin. What he also did was moved all of the wheels to the far corners of the car. So you basically end up with this box with 2 wheels at the front, 2 wheels at the back, and engine along the front, which means you've got a huge amount of space inside the car. When the car first went on sale, it wasn't a massive success, but soon celebrities twigged on to this awesome little car. The Beatles had them, Steve McQueen had them, Enzo Ferrari, Bruce McLaren, who started the McLaren team, as well as a whole host of supermodels in the 60s, and then the car really took off. But what was never intended, and was kind of an accident, is that a couple of years after production, people started saying, you know what, these cars can be modified to go really fast. And that's when the John Cooper story came into being. They started modifying these Minis for racing, and what they didn't know was this car became a massive success both in rallying and on the modification circuit. Now, when it comes to racing, the Minis were unbeatable, and in the Monte Carlo Rally, they won in 1964, 1965. In 1966, they were disqualified. The Minis came first, second, and third, but they were disqualified because of a wrong kind of filament that was in their headlights. Now, this was very controversial at the time because the car that came fourth was a Citroën, and it was a French rally. So a lot of people were really upset about that, but Mini came back again the next year in 1967 and thrashed everyone. Meanwhile, back in Australia in 1966, well before it was called the Bathurst 1000, but it was on Mount Panorama, the Minis not only won, they came first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth. And the car that came 10th was a Chrysler Valiant, which was 6 laps behind the winning Mini Cooper. So the Mini story is an incredible one, and there is a huge following out there for people with modified Minis. There's ones with engine swaps, with motorbike engines in them. It's one of the most modified cars of all time, and they've sold over 5 million of them. And it has been ranked in the top 2 most influential cars of all time, along with the Ford Model T. So let me give you a look at mine and show you what I've done to it so far. So this is my Mark 7 Mini Cooper that was made specifically for the Japanese domestic market. And this particular configuration is not found anywhere else, which is why the cool kids like calling them JDM wide body Minis. Now, this is one of the last Minis that were made before BMW took over and started making that new big thing that they stuck the Mini badge on, which was a big kind of complicated thing and doesn't really share a lot of the philosophies and aesthetics of the original Minis, which is why some people who are really into their classic Minis are not a fan at all of the new Minis. Obviously, the new ones are, they're cool cars and all, but they're probably not as mini as their badge would suggest. But there was a couple of models of Mini that they made before then, and they kind of threw everything at it. So I'm going to show you a couple of the things that are awesome about the car and a couple of things that I've done to it as well. These rims that we put on are genuine super lights. These are made by Performance Industries in South Australia. They've got a manufacturing plant down there, and they've been making these for classic cars since the 70s. These ones are 13 by 7. The car came with 13 by 6, which in Mini standards is actually already pretty big. But those with older Minis and people who really love the old school Mini aesthetic usually prefer to have smaller rims on there, like 10-inch. Now, inside this Mini is a very, very funky place to be. So we've got green leather, we've got all of this wooden trim, which is very, very funky. But one of the coolest things is this stuff. I mean, this is all factory. This is, I mean, I just love it. It's so cool. There is quite a unique seating position inside this Mini. As you'll see in relation to my leg, the steering wheel actually sits over your left leg. It doesn't sit in the middle, so it's kind of to the side, which is a bit of a strange thing. Most of the time, I think the steering wheel is meant to be in the middle of your legs, but if that has to be in the middle, I'm now not sitting in the seat. So that's a bit of a strange thing. But one of the best things about a Japanese Mini is they come with air conditioning, which is just, for Australia, is so cool. So you've got your normal vents that are here, just for your outside air, and then you've got other vents that are inside that's just for your heater, and then you've got a third set of vents over here, which is your air conditioning, and they're all run by different systems. There isn't just one control panel that controls everything, so you kind of use a combination of those things. Now, the reason the car was off the road for a little while is as I was driving along, there was this mist that was coming up on the windscreen here, and we found out that that was coolant, and which is never a really good thing to have on there. So we had to take the whole heater matrix out, and we had to drain the coolant, which looked terrible. And when the heater matrix came out, it was unlike anything we'd ever seen before. It was just this hairy, green, wet mess. It was just horrendous. So we basically took the whole heater unit out, and we sat that up on a bench, and we started doing the repairs and seeing what was going on. And then a good friend of mine, hello Martin, who was helping me out, accidentally bumped it, and this whole unit just went flying in slow motion and landed on the ground. And trying to find, from Japan, a Japanese spec heater unit to try and fit in this car was a lengthy and expensive process. We eventually found one in England, actually, and just that little unit there was 250 pounds. So it was pretty epic. I don't know if you can see from here, but while we're on it, I want to show you the glove box because it probably is big enough for one glove. So that's the glove box, literally big enough for half a sandwich. There it is. Whenever Marty and I buy cars, we always go through the same process, and that's called SWAT, S-W-A-T. So that's service, wheels and tires, audio and alarm, and tint. And we usually go through that within the first week or the first few days of owning a car. So when it comes to servicing this, there are some unique things about owning a Mini Cooper which are different to other cars. I mean, it is an old car and an old engine design. This is the A-series engine. So it's 4-cylinder, 1.3 litre. What's kind of interesting about this car is that the engine oil is also shared by the gearbox. So you put the oil in and that's shared by both, like a big happy family. The car is running on a Toyota genuine coolant. And so service is the first thing that we do. Wheels and tires, I spoke to you about those already. Audio and alarm, the car did come with a very JDM CD stacker, which pretty much all the cars we import from Japan always have this dirty CD stacker in the back, so that's left. Miles from the Mighty Car Mods forum helped me here running power into the doors. And I bought these from eBay, basically these little door panels that can also fit pods for speakers. So we ran a different head unit, speakers in both the doors, a bit of storage is good as well, and then also speakers in the back. We also ran an alarm and an immobilizer. And then when it comes to tints, Show Us Your Tints from the Mighty Car Mods forum came out to do this for us. Now again, with classic Minis and Mini purists, they're not massive fans of tint. There's a couple of practical reasons though. Being in Australia, it can get up to 40 degrees here, sometimes even hotter, so there's that. But also, I'm kind of going for a bit of a black and green look in terms of the door cards, in terms of the wheels, and so it kind of just fits with my whole theme of trying to do a black and green Mini. So there it is. That is my Mini Cooper. I love it. It's so good to be in one again after all of these years. And I'm so excited to start doing some work to it as well. We've got some really, really cool things planned for it. The outside is not going to change pretty much at all. It's going to stay exactly like this. but we've got some really exciting stuff coming up, including some mad DIY projects as well that'll apply to you in any car, no matter what you have. So there it is, Mini, it's mad. Thanks for watching. Oh, in the reveal video that we did, a lot of people were asking about my chopped key tags. This one, we've got them, they're on the Mighty Car Mods shop. You can find them at mightycarmods.com. We ship them anywhere in the world, so you can find them there. Thanks for watching. You can follow us, of course, on our Faceballs. That's facebook.com/mightycarmods. Thank you very much. Mini Madness. See you next time.